Get out, you lowlife. We don't need uneducated trash polluting this family. That's what my father screamed, veins bulging, voice cracking, as he pointed to the door like I was filth. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding. No hesitation. No remorse. My name is Camille. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Has your own blood ever spat on your dreams, only to beg at the feet of the future they never believed you'd build? It was supposed to be a casual dinner, a rare visit back home just to check in, but it turned into a firing squad. I was sitting at the table, still in my jeans and sandals, trying to explain what I'd been working on. Tech ventures, real estate partnerships, startup equity plays. Not that they cared. You never finished college, my dad snapped. You still work on a laptop at cafes like a scam artist, Mom added. Then came the line that burned like acid. You're just pretending to be successful. You'll come crawling back like always. I looked at them, at their smug faces, at the living room I once helped remodel with my own bare hands, and I felt nothing. Just clarity. I stood up, tucked my chair in, grabbed my purse and keys, and said one word. Okay. They laughed behind me as I walked out. But what they didn't know, that cafe scam artist had just closed a $7.8 million deal. That the uneducated trash held majority shares in a fintech startup valued at over $200 million. That I wasn't leaving in shame. I was leaving in silence, to my beachfront Florida estate, where the ocean listens better than family ever did. 3 weeks later, they called. Not to apologize, but because the bank froze their accounts, because their house was on the brink of foreclosure, because their golden retirement plan turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. And suddenly the trash they kicked out smelled a whole lot like salvation. But I don't open the door just because someone's knocking, especially when the last time they saw me, they slammed it in my face. The first missed call came on a Thursday. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. Then another. And another. By Sunday, I had 16 missed calls. All from my mother. The same woman who called me. A mistake that never learned her place. Now leaving voicemails that started with, "Camille, sweetie, we need to talk." And ended with, "Please. Just call us back. It's urgent." I didn't. I was too busy watching the sun rise from the balcony of my Florida beach house, sipping coffee brewed by my personal chef. Too busy reviewing the third offer from a major venture capital firm begging to buy into my latest platform. Funny how quiet life gets when you cut off the noise of people who only cheered when you were small. But then they showed up, unannounced. I was on my way back from yoga when the security desk called. "Ma'am, there's an older couple downstairs. They say they're your parents." I paused, then smiled. "Tell them I'm not available. And please let them know this building doesn't allow unapproved guests." 10 minutes later, I watched the security footage. There was my dad, pacing. My mom wiping tears she hadn't earned. Both of them looking around like they suddenly realized how far down the ladder they'd thrown me. They didn't recognize the world I'd built, because they never thought I was capable of building anything at all. Back when I dropped out of college, they held a family meeting without me. Decided I was wasting my life. Told relatives I was working for some scam website living off breadcrumbs. What I was actually doing? Designing a financial algorithm that now powers one of the fastest-growing credit unions in the Southeast. My team calls me the quiet billionaire in sneakers. I just prefer free. Free from expectations. Free from shame. Free from begging people who never saw my value to suddenly respect it. Later that evening, my dad sent a final text. "We're struggling. We need your help. Just a small loan until things get better." I read it once, then twice, and replied with just 3 words. I thought I was trash. Delivered. Read. No reply. Because when someone tosses you out like garbage, they don't get to knock on your mansion door 3 weeks later, asking to borrow gold. The silence after my message lasted 3 full days. No texts. No calls. No voicemails begging for forgiveness. Just silence, the kind that creeps in when people finally see the reflection they've spent a lifetime avoiding. But I wasn't waiting for them to respond. I was too busy closing a new round of funding with 2 Silicon Valley partners and a private equity firm in Dubai. Too busy reviewing blueprints for my second property in Miami. Too busy living the life they said I'd never earn without a degree or their approval. Then on the 4th day, my sister called. We hadn't spoken in over a year, not since she mocked me at Thanksgiving dinner for chasing internet money while holding a glass of wine I paid for. "Camille," she said, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "They're not okay. Dad's had 2 panic attacks. Mom hasn't been eating. I think they realized they went too far." I didn't say anything. She continued, "Look, I'm not asking you to forget. Just help them stay afloat. They're scared." I finally spoke. "Do you remember what Mom called me? What Dad yelled in my face?" There was a long pause. She whispered, "Yes." "Then let me ask you this," I said, my voice calm. "If they had never fallen, would they have ever reached out?" She didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. They didn't miss me. They missed the idea of me. The one who never said no. The one who quietly paid their bills. The one who showed up with flowers after being told she was unworthy. But that girl? She's gone. And in her place stands a woman who wears peace like a crown, who doesn't explain success to people who can't spell respect. Later that night, I drafted an email. Professional. Clear. Final. To Mom and Dad. "I'm sorry for your situation. Truly. But this is the life you told me I didn't deserve. The same life you ridiculed me for building. I will not fund comfort for people who chose cruelty when kindness cost them nothing. I wish you healing. But from a distance. Camille." I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I simply hit send. Because closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes it comes from choosing not to go back, even when the door is wide open. By the following weekend, the media caught wind of it. Not the drama. The empire. An article dropped in a major business magazine. From college dropout to fintech queen, Camille R. built a $45 million fortune from scratch. There was a photo. Me on the balcony of my beach house, barefoot, wind in my hair, holding a coffee mug that said self-funded. The story hit like wildfire. Within hours, old classmates messaged me. Former bosses. Even 2 ex-boyfriends who always believed in me suddenly wanted to grab coffee. And yes, my parents saw it. I know because my sister screenshotted their group chat. Mom had written, "She's embarrassing us publicly. This is unnecessary." Dad replied, "She's doing this for attention." Always was a performer. There it was. Even now, after all their cruelty, after seeing the world applaud the daughter they tossed aside, they couldn't bring themselves to say one word. Proud. But I didn't need it anymore. Because the world didn't validate me. I validated me. That Sunday evening, I hosted a small celebration. Just 10 people. Investors who bet on me when others laughed. Friends who stayed when families slammed doors. We toasted to building something real. To outgrowing the rooms we were told we'd never leave. To surviving the guilt that so many daughters carry when they succeed without permission. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, someone asked, "Camille, would you ever forgive them?" I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because it deserved to be said slowly. "I already have," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean access." They all nodded, because they understood. Forgiveness is mine to give. Reentry is not. Later that night, I got a new text. Blocked number. No name. Just this. "We saw the article. Can we come see you?" I didn't reply, because they didn't want to see me. They wanted to stand beside the success they never believed in. And I had no room at this table for people who laughed while I built it. Monday morning, my lawyer called. "Camille, we've been contacted by your parents' financial advisor. They're asking if you consider a loan to help cover their property taxes. Apparently, they're about 6 months behind." I let the silence hang. Then I said calmly, "Send them my rates. Business only." He chuckled at first, thinking I was joking. But when he realized I wasn't, his tone shifted. Understood. Because this was no longer a family matter. This was business. And they taught me long ago, the hard way, that when you're not respected as a daughter, don't offer love like one. I wasn't cold. I was clear. The same clarity they had when they called me uneducated trash. The same clarity Dad had when he pointed to the door and said, "Get out." Now the door was locked, the doormat gone, and the threshold guarded by the value they never saw in me. That week, they tried a different angle. My aunt reached out. She said, "Camille, honey, I know they were harsh, but they're old school."
They didn't mean it like that.
But they did. Every word, every insult, every look of shame when I said I wasn't going back to college. Every eye roll when I mentioned I was coding. I remember once, Dad told a neighbor I just does internet stuff. Probably a glorified receptionist. That receptionist now owned 2 corporations, 12 rental units, and 4 trademarks. And the trash they threw out now had trash bins worth more than their mortgage. Still, I told my aunt politely, I've forgiven them, but I'm not responsible for them. And that was the real line in the sand. Because people like them, they confuse access with love. They think being family means I owe them support, even after they offered none to me. But my support isn't free. It's earned. And they never made the down payment. Instead, I made one on a second beach house in Destin. Fully furnished. Ocean view. Paid in cash. Because while they clung to pride, I invested in peace. And peace? It never calls you lowlife. It never kicks you out. Peace welcomes you in. Only if you remember who you had to become to afford it. By Friday, the desperation turned performative. A handwritten letter arrived in a padded envelope. No return address, but I knew the handwriting immediately, my mother's. Curvy, careful, and always 2 sizes too big. It began with, "Camille, we made mistakes. We just wanted better for you." And spiraled quickly into emotional landmines. "We were scared. We didn't understand your choices. You used to need us. We weren't ready to need you. Can't we just start over?" No mention of the words they used. No ownership of the damage. Just soft nostalgia and veiled guilt. At the bottom, a single line written in trembling ink. "We'd like to see the beach house." Of course. Because that's what it was always about. Not me, but what I had. Not love, but proximity to the life they never believed I could build. I folded the letter in half, then in half again, and dropped it in the shredder. Because here's what they didn't understand. You don't get to disown someone and then demand a tour of the palace they built from the rubble of your rejection. They had a daughter. Brilliant, loyal, quietly fierce. And they threw her out with the garbage because she didn't fit their definition of success. Now she was on Forbes 40 Under 40. And suddenly they remembered her name. But I wasn't Camille the desperate anymore. I was Camille the decision maker. And my decision was this. No visits. No tours. No second chances. Instead, I called my assistant. Schedule the photo shoot at the new property. Coastal, sunset, clean minimalist style. And tell the reporter, yes, I'll do the cover interview. Because if they were going to see me now, they'd see me from a distance. No begging. No performance. Just truth, wrapped in designer linen and glass walls. And when they scroll through those photos, when they squint at the life they were too blind to believe in, they'll see exactly what they missed. Not just the money, not just the views, but the daughter who could have carried them all, if only they'd held her with something other than contempt. The magazine hit stands on a Tuesday. Front cover. Full page. A clean shot of me standing barefoot on the marble deck of my Florida beach house, wind in my hair, smile quiet but unshakable. Headline. She was told she'd never make it. Now she doesn't answer unknown calls. Inside, a 6-page spread. The real story. The rejection. The rebuilding. The empire. They didn't sensationalize it. They didn't turn it into a sob story. They let the facts speak, loud and clear. Daughter disowned for chasing an unconventional path. Now CEO of a multi-million-dollar portfolio. No degree, no apology, just results. And within 48 hours, my parents' entire social circle had read it. Their friends, their church, their former coworkers. I know because my cousin forwarded a text from my dad. I'm sick of people asking about her like she's some kind of hero. She betrayed us. No, Dad. I didn't betray you. You abandoned me, and I survived anyway. That's not betrayal. That's becoming. By Friday, I got another letter. No dramatic wording this time. Just this. We see now that we were wrong. If there's ever a place for us in your life again, we'd be grateful. Mom and Dad. I sat with it for hours. There was a time I would have crumbled, would have rushed to call, to fix it, to finally be chosen. But that version of me? She doesn't live here anymore. I don't need to be chosen by people who couldn't even recognize me. So I wrote a response. Not to reopen a door, but to close it properly. Dear Mom and Dad, you taught me what it feels like to be unwanted, what it means to be discarded. And in doing so, you taught me to build something no one could take from me. I forgive you. But forgiveness does not include access. You will not be part of this chapter, because you tore out every page that could have included you. I wish you healing. I truly do. But from the distance you created.
Camille.
No signature. No warmth. Just closure, clean, earned, and absolute. Because some families are assigned. But the real ones? You build them. From respect. From truth. From people who clap when you rise, even if they had to watch you do it without them. It's been 6 months now. 6 months since they called me trash. 6 months since I walked out of that house with nothing but a purse, a quiet okay, and a spine they didn't think I had. And in those 6 months, I've opened 2 new companies, invested in 5 women-led startups, built a scholarship fund for girls like me, brilliant, overlooked, and uninvited to the table. And most days I wake up to waves.
To peace.
To space, the kind they tried to shrink me out of. The requests have stopped. No more letters. No more voicemails. Just silence. And that silence? It doesn't ache anymore. It sings. Because I stopped chasing their version of love the day I realized it was conditional. As long as I obeyed. As long as I stayed small. As long as I never outgrew the story they wrote for me. But I outgrew it. I rewrote it. And now I don't need their seats at the table. I've built my own hall. With high ceilings, wide windows, and room only for those who saw me before the glow-up. People ask sometimes if I regret cutting them off. If I ever feel lonely.
Here's what I say.
Loneliness is living in a house where your voice doesn't matter. Peace is waking up in your own home, built with your own hands, where every corner whispers, "You did this." So no, I don't regret leaving. They kicked me out thinking they were breaking me. What they didn't know, they were setting me free. And if they ever drive by this house, this quiet palace of soft light and louder legacy, they'll know that the daughter they once dismissed as a failure turned out to be the architect of everything they needed and everything they'll never have again.